Hi, Professor Tillman. Today I'll be discussing the case on Roberto, who is a 14-year-old biracial boy who currently lives in Ohio with his grandparents. He is in the 8th grade, and he has recently been diagnosed with ADHD when he was 12 years old. Roberto was born in Puerto Rico. His father was in the Army, and his mother was a drug addict and prostitute. His parents got divorced at the age of 2. He stayed with his mother, and then his father had moved back to the United States. He lived with his mother until he was the age of 10 when she died from a drug overdose. At that point, Robbie was placed in a foster group home until his father was able to go and get him. Once his father was able to go and get him, he moved his life from Puerto Rico into the United States. At this time, there are no immediate risks that exist. However, my safety plan going forward would be to ensure that Robbie gets off the streets, that he stops selling and doing drugs, that he gets back into school as he's been recently expelled, and finds some sort of motivation in regard to his specific interests, whatever they may be. Next, I would want to ensure that Robbie gets involved in peer activities to make appropriate relationships. I would work with his grandfather to incorporate his grandmother and Robbie in family therapy moving forward, and perhaps I would also suggest individual therapy for Robbie as well to cope with the traumatic experiences he has faced. In regard to multidisciplinary teams, I would incorporate the school counselor by ensuring that he or she works with Robbie and his family to increase his grades and work towards graduation. She might want to work with him to discuss his interests for his future career and to motivate him to be more interested in school. Next, for the DCFS ER worker, I would ensure that Robbie's household can best support him and his safety throughout the remaining years of his adolescence. He or she also may recommend parenting classes for the grandfather and grandmother to ensure safety in the home. Next, in regard to the juvenile probation officer assigned to diversion, he or she would work with Robbie through the diversion program or the expunge of his first offense of smoking weed and inform him of the consequences moving forward if he's caught for the same offense or different offenses in the future. Next, in regard to the mental health worker outstationed at DCFS, he or she would work with Robbie for individual therapy discussing his past traumas and healthy coping skills, as well as family therapy that incorporates the grandparents' involvement with Robbie. As the coordinator of special education services for the school district, he or she needs to ensure that Robbie is in the correct special education courses. He or she may focus on integrating English as a second language courses, as Robbie has expressed numerous times in the case Vignette that he desires to improve his English so he can understand and translate to people better. Robbie has experienced many traumatic events in his life, but the top 3 that I would say are the highest and how I would reduce them are as followed. First would be the death of his mother at age 10. In order to reduce stress in this area, I would provide individual therapy to discuss death and loss and how to cope and grieve. Next, I would say that the most traumatic event would be being placed in the foster home in Puerto Rico and then moving to the United States abruptly at age 10. For this, I think individual therapy and group therapy to discuss the challenges of transitioning to new culture, norms, and traditions would be most helpful. Third, I believe that the death of his father at age 12 is very traumatic as well. I would recommend providing individual therapy, family therapy, and group therapy to discuss healthy coping skills, living without parents, and grieving. As for my interdisciplinary case plan goals for this family, I would like to maintain consistency and permanency by allowing Robbie to continue living with his grandparents. I would ensure this goal is reached by mandating parenting classes and family therapy sessions. Next, I would want to ensure that Robbie stops smoking weed and or participating in other drugs. In order to ensure that this goal is achieved, I would practice utilizing drug tests and group therapy to ensure this goal is met. Next, Robbie is currently taking Ritalin to maintain his ADHD. I would want to incorporate the mental health worker as well as a doctor to ensure that he is taking the proper dosage to help him focus better in school courses. And in order to reach this goal, I would meet with the mental health worker on a regular basis as well as with Robbie to ensure and assess his dosage. Lastly, I would want to encourage Robbie to join peer or group activities, either support groups, sports, and or some sort of academic groups to help build appropriate friendships for his development in the future. Lastly, the professional services or people that I believe that can help me reach these case plan goals would be individual or group therapy, drug support groups, bereavement support groups for teens, support groups for transitioning to new cultures, perhaps a juvenile probation officer to help ensure that Robbie stays on the right track in regard to selling drugs and maintaining the law going forward, visiting the mental health worker or doctor to regularly maintain Ritalin dosage. I would incorporate parenting classes for both grandparents and the special education course system, as well as English as a second language assistance program. As long as these goals are worked on and stayed in progress, I believe that robbie has a great chance for success in the future, as well as his grandparents, and he would be able to maintain permanency and consistency in his life moving forward. Thank you.